Okay, so we're back in a tool set, and in this or in this section of the video, we're going to talk about how to teleport from one server to another. So what I've got here is I've got our handy little module that we've been using to test with, and what I'm going to do is create a little road kind of thing, and at the end of that road, it's going to have an area transition that's going to actually transport us to a completely different computer and a completely different server. Now, as I've said a couple of times already, I'm not going to get into how to share a character vault between multiple computers. There's several ways you can do that. You can use a shared, if you have a big file server, you can have a share and all the servers mounted, or you could use, there's an NWNX plugin out there that does that. I may get into a video later at a later date that will demonstrate some techniques on how to do that, but we're going to assume that you've already done the research to learn how to actually run two servers, and the Legends Teleport plugin will give you the method of how to get a character from one server to the other. Now again, you can typically do that fairly easy with some minor scripting. However, with the Legends Teleport plugin, you have a whole lot of power at your disposal. You can now put requirements on it. You can prevent a player from transferring from one server to another unless they have a particular feat and things like that. So that's where the Legends plugin usefulness comes in, is when you can put all those requirements on a teleport source. So I'm going to turn on my um, surface mesh here so I can see where the boundaries are. I'm not actually going to bring this all the way over. What I'm going to do is, well, how can we? I got an idea. What we'll do is we'll just throw down a texture, and I'm just going to, and yeah, I know people are going to cringe when they see this, but it's just for demonstration purposes. Don't kill me. I'm just going to just dirty this up a little bit and just create a little road out of here like this. There we go. I'm not good at areas, but this will do for this purpose. So there's our little road, and the idea is, and again, you don't have to do this as a road. It could be anything. It could be it could be a teleport to um, another plane of existence inside a deep shrine or something, and the players click on an object which will transfer them to a different server. Um, and that could be another plane of existence or something. It could be anything you like, but the concept is the same. So, but for this example, we're going to just make it a road, and when a player walks over to this area transition and transitions from this road to the next place, then it's going to be a completely different server. So we're going to decorate it a little bit. I'm just going to throw down a couple of trees. Make sure I have my trees on, because I usually have them off, just so I have some idea on where I am. And I'm just going to change the seed on this one. There we go. There, good enough. And I'll hide those again. And I'm going to grab a standard area transition trigger. So when I go into my triggers, I'm not grabbing the new generic, I'm grabbing the new area transition. So I'm going to do this like that. So that's my area transition, and I'm going to throw down a waypoint. Now I'm using this waypoint proactively, because this is going to be my return waypoint on the other server. So when we get into the other module and a player is going to click on the area transition on the other side in the other module, they're going to return to this waypoint. Okay, they're not going to return to their campsite, or they're not going to return to the default start location. They're going to return to this waypoint. So we're going to have that waypoint there. I'm going to change the tag of that waypoint to server 1 road. So just so you can see what I'm doing there, just what I put in here for this waypoint tag, it's server1 underscore road. So again, make that meaningful to you for your world. And we'll have that waypoint there and this area transition. So we're almost ready to go. All we have to do next is to just configure this area transition as a server-to-server teleporter. So we're going to fire up the teleport plugin on it, and we're going to select trigger instance. And this is where things get a little different. The server type on this one is going to be server teleport. So we're going to click server teleport on that. Again, this has nothing to do with campsites. What we want to have happen here is when a player hits that transition, we just want them to continue along the road just on a different server. So this is going to be a specific waypoint tag. The server waypoint tag that we're going to set up over there is going to be server2_road, which we haven't set up yet, but we will. And we're going to connect to a particular server ID. So I'm going to just cancel this real quick and go into the configuration. Remember when we set a server ID here? This is the server ID that we're going to go to. Okay, so each of your modules will have to have a unique ID. And this is the ID that we're going to use for our destination. So in this particular module, it's going to be server 1. When we go and work on the other module, our destination, we're going to put in a server ID of 2 there. So we'll just cancel that and go back to our trigger. And again, server teleport. It's going to be server2_road. The server ID is going to be server2. Okay. Now, server IP address, this is basically the IP or name of the computer that you're going to be teleporting to. Now, for our demonstration, I think we're going to use, we'll use NWN, we'll use cal NWN, which one? 04, I think. We'll use that one. And our server base port for this one's going to be 5121. Again, I'm not going to get into how do you set up multiple servers on computers, where hopefully you've already done that part. But again, if there's interest, I can create a video series on how to do this. And we'll create a password for it. Just throw that in. And we're not going to have any particular requirements for this portal. Anybody will be able to go from one to the other, no level requirements or anything like that. So that's it. Pretty straightforward. We're going to run this our server 2 module over on this computer, and that's it. We hit add and finish and quit, and that's it. We're done. So this module is now ready to send players to another computer. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to save this. So I'm going to rebake this and save it. And what we'll do is I'm just going to pause the video here, and I'm going to create another new module because it's kind of boring. I'm not going to go through that. Create another module, configure the plugins on it, and then we'll get back in and we'll create a brand new area and do the other side of this portal. So I'm going to pause the video here and be right back. Okay, so I'm back and I've got a brand new module created here. This one is called TPO2. So in this module, I don't have any areas yet, but I did, install the scripts, install the info plugin. I've configured the master configurator with the database information, and I've configured just about everything. Next, we'll go into the teleport plugin itself, and we'll actually set up this configuration. So as we said before, this one is going to be called server 2. That's its unique ID. We don't need to worry about a module entry waypoint tag because we're not talking about campsites or bootstraps or anything like that for this one. So we'll leave that alone. We do want server to server active, and it doesn't really matter about player campsites because we're not demonstrating that right now, but I'll just throw it on anyway just for fun. And we'll hit finish. Now, we're all set to go there. I can do my file, compile all scripts because I have changed the configurations. Whenever you make configuration changes, you definitely want to recompile all your scripts. And no, I haven't created an area yet, so let's do that next. Create a brand new area. We'll call it the other road. Good enough. And it doesn't really matter. I'll make it tiny just to keep it simple. And we'll throw on, we'll have to redo that. There we go. So we'll throw on our surface mesh. Now, again, realistically, I don't even remember which side lines up with which side, so we're not going to concern ourselves about that right now. But what we'll do is the kind of the same thing. I'm just going to do some painting of the road. Just kind of continue it on, same idea, and just to make it look like, hey, this is a road of some sort. Not a very good one, but there it is. And I'm just going to put some placeables down just to identify, maybe a tent or something. Oh, that's a big tent. Um, maybe a little tent, because over on this server there'll be a merchant or something here. Who knows? Who cares? And I'm going to throw a couple of trees down because I kind of like doing that. Now, one thing that I do like to do, and you may want to consider doing this as well. Where are my trees? There we go. You may want to consider this as well, is that I usually try to put some kind of indicator, um, visual reference, so that the players know they're actually going to transfer from one server to another before they actually perform it. And throw down the same kind of trees. Just going to put a couple along here like this. Whether that's like some kind of glow effect or something, you definitely want to give the player some kind of opportunity to say, okay, wait a minute, I'm not just transferring from one area to another here, I'm actually transferring from one server to another. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll put some kind of visual effect, some kind of glow, or some kind of indicator that will let them know, hey, yeah, this is another area transition. You are going to continue down the road here, but be aware when you do click on this, you're going to go to another server. When you go there, you're going to have to download the resources, and of course, hopefully, you're using the auto downloader built in, because that's really helpful in this kind of situation when you go from one server to the other. When the player first connects to your first server, it only downloads the resources, tracks files, walk mesh files, sorry, I got lost there for a second, for the walk mesh files for that particular server. And when they portal to this one, the auto downloader kicks in again and downloads all the walk mesh files for this server. So, if both servers are rather large, they may click on this area transition and be surprised that, oh, you've got to wait 3 or 4 minutes for all those to download. They may not have expected that, may not have wanted that. So put in some kind of visual reference for them, so that they know you're about to transition to another server. Now, I'm not going to do that for this demo, but it's just a little tip there that you can do if you like. So I'm going to create another new area transition here, just like in the other one. Not very square, that's okay. And I'm going to toss down a waypoint, standard, regular waypoint. Okay. Now, this waypoint is going to be server2_road. If you recall, our transition over on that first server is actually going to send us to server2_road waypoint, which is this guy. So we'll put that back, and then we'll select this trigger and load the plugin on it. File, teleport, trigger instance. And again, this one is going to be a server teleport, and our destination is going to be server1_road. Our server ID is server1, and we're going to connect to the server. That one's going to run on NWN2 5121, and that password. And again, no, we're not going to put any requirements on this side, so you can get back easily enough too. So we'll hit add and hit finish and hit quit, and we're done. That's it. Actually, we're not quite done. I have to do 2 things that I haven't done yet, and that is go over here, put in our client enter scripts for that, and our exit scripts for that, and Baker area. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and, I'm going to throw in a start location. It's not really important for this. I'm going to throw in I'm going to publish these and throw them up on the 2 servers and log into the first one and demonstrate how this works. So we'll see you back in game in a minute. Okay, so we're back in game, and again, because our campsite was stored right here at the Spine Stone, we're back here. However, if we look down here now, we'll see our happy little trees and our road. So what we're going to do is transfer ourselves. So we're just going to walk down this road, and we should see our area transition. There it is. Now again, you might want to put something special around here to let players know that, hey, this is not just a regular area transition. We're actually going to go from one server to another. So what I would expect to see is when we click on this, we're actually going to move from one server to another. It's going to download any resources, but it should be fairly quick because there is only the one area that it has to download. And we should end up over there. So let's do that. And sure enough, there we go. It starts to download the resources and boom, transports us to the other server. So now we're officially on another server. There's the area transition back. There's our little tent that we created. So we're now running on a completely different computer than we were before. And of course, in my environment, the player vaults are all shared across all the different servers, so that's not really an issue for me. But you'll want to make sure that you're taking that into account when you're doing this kind of thing, and your database is accessible to all servers. So, and again, the same thing. We can simply go back with this transition and connect back to the original server. And boom, here we are, straight back again, continuing along the same road, but on a different server, on different computers. So, again, this is really where the teleport plugin can get quite powerful for you. When you think of it like this, as you're only really limited anymore by how much hardware resources you have, how fast your bandwidth is, and how many computer servers you can get, and you can make a world, almost as big as you can possibly desire. Again, there you go. And that is pretty much the end of server-to-server teleporting. Now, the only final piece that the teleport plugin can do is dungeon instancing, and that is further, it's even a little bit more advanced topic than server-to-server, and it does require a lot of server resources for doing instancing. The whole concept of a dungeon instance is to give a group of players a personalized dungeon crawl experience where you can do some interesting things where other party members or other groups or other players won't bother them or interrupt them or run in and steal the last bad guy at the end of the dungeon kind of thing. They get their own personal dungeon experience. And you can do kind of some really cool things with dungeon instances that you can't, that doesn't really cater so well to the main world. Like, for example, I can have a dungeon where I go and kill all the creatures in the dungeon, and they stay dead while I'm in there. They don't respawn back in, and it's not really an issue, because what happens with a dungeon instance is that when you're finished with it and all the players leave, the dungeon instance resets itself and starts anew for the next party of players. So you can do a lot of cool things in a dungeon instance that doesn't really lend well into the main world. And again, you get a personalized experience. Now, when I call it a dungeon instance, it doesn't even really need to be a dungeon. It could be anything. It could be an outside area. It could be the inside of someone's house. It could be anything. But we just call them dungeon instances just to keep it simple and standard vocabulary. But a dungeon instance is, in a nutshell, another server. And the other big difference between a dungeon instance, other than it being a separate server that gets reset when it's empty, is that there are multiple of them. So, for example, if two parties come along, and you could have something like this, I'll just run over here. And if this was the entrance to a dungeon instance, say this was a mine or something, or a cave or whatever it may be, and there was two parties, here's me and my party, and here's another party of characters right there. If we all click on this, my party will get sent to to the cave. That party would get sent to a cave, but they'll get sent to a separate one. They'll get sent to a different one, and we'll be able to both explore the exact same cave, but separately, because there'll be two versions of the cave running. Now, this is also useful because it helps keep your main world size down, because all your dungeons no longer need to actually be in your main world. They can all be little separate tiny modules, and you can run many of them because they're so small. Typically a dungeon is only a couple of areas big, and you can run 2 or 3 copies of a dungeon instance, and 2 or 3 parties can go in and all do their own version of it. And a teleport plugin will handle all of that traffic for you. So we're going to get into that in the next tutorial, so we'll see you back in the toolset.